Welcome to Maritime Pakistan, your gateway to the fascinating world of oceans and the opportunities they present to every one of us. Our goal is to explore the shared heritage of the seas and oceans to achieve global prosperity. Today, we're diving into the book, The Sea and History, The Ancient World, and we're going to focus on one incredible chapter called The Sea is Specific to Homo Sapiens. You know, our relationship with the sea feels ancient, but what if it's even deeper than we imagine? What if it's the very thing that made us, well, us?
All right, let's kick things off with one of the biggest questions there is. How did our species, starting from one little corner of Africa, manage to populate every single continent on the planet? I mean, it's an epic story of expansion, unlike anything else we see in the natural world.
For the longest time, the answer seemed pretty straightforward. You know the one. We all imagined our ancestors as these tough pioneers, spreading out of Africa in a great march, all on foot. Land was the path, and the sea? The sea was just this huge, impossible wall.
But what if that whole story is wrong? Sensational new discoveries are completely flipping that script. This new evidence suggests we've been looking at the map all wrong. What if the oceans weren't walls at all? What if they were actually humanity's very first highways? Okay, so the first piece of evidence that just completely shatters this old picture, well, it comes from a place and a time that nobody saw coming.
Just let that number sink in. 800,000 years ago. That's the date on stone tools found on the Indonesian island of Flores. And get this is hundreds of thousands of years before our own species, Homo sapiens, even existed.
Now, to get to Flores, these early humans had to cross something called the Wallace Line. And listen, this isn't just a bit of water. It's a deep ocean trench that's been there for millions of years. It is such a significant, permanent water barrier that even powerful swimmers, like tigers, never made it across.
This raises a huge, huge question. If land animals couldn't cross this thing, how on earth did a pre-human species, our ancestor Homo erectus, manage to get to Flores 800,000 years ago?
The answer is as simple as it is absolutely revolutionary. They sailed. Okay, not in complex ships, obviously, but probably on some kind of basic bamboo rafts. It was likely just short-distance island hopping, always keeping land in sight. But the fact remains, Homo erectus was humanity's first navigator. Now, as incredible as that is, Homo erectus were really just the pioneers. When our own species, Homo sapiens, showed up, well, we took seafaring to an entirely new and frankly audacious level. So here's the key difference. Think of Homo erectus as a coastal explorer, making short, opportunistic trips between islands they could see. But Homo sapiens, we became true ocean voyagers. We undertook planned, long-distance journeys right into the total unknown. And just how far were we willing to go? Well, to get to the ancient supercontinent of Sahul, what is now Australia and New Guinea, our ancestors had to cross a stretch of open ocean that was, at its very narrowest, 100 kilometers wide.
I mean, just try to picture that. This wasn't island hopping. This was a deliberate voyage across the deep ocean with no land visible in any direction, all the way back around 50,000 years ago. It required planning, technology, and a kind of courage that is just staggering to think about. And you know what? Australia wasn't a one-off. New evidence is popping up all the time, showing that these maritime skills were absolutely central to our global expansion, from settling the islands of the Mediterranean to reaching Japan, and even, and this is a hot topic, populating the Americas, which challenges that old story about a single walk across the Bering Land Bridge. So we know how they did it. They built boats and they sailed. But that leads to an even deeper question. Why? What was it that changed in the human mind that turned us from hesitant coastal explorers into full-blown ocean conquerors? You might think it was just a desperate act, right? Maybe they were being pushed out by volcanoes or climate change. And while those things might have played a part, the evidence is pointing to something much, much deeper going on. It looks like this great leap outwards was actually kicked off by a great leap inwards. Long before these major sea crossings, there was a revolution in thinking, a cultural and symbolic explosion that was happening in Africa. All of a sudden, we see these clusters of incredible innovation. People started heat-treating stone to make much finer, deadlier tools. They mastered using pigments like ochre for what must have been symbolic reasons. And, crucially, they started making the very first forms of jewelry. And this is the smoking gun right here. These Nassarius shell beads, they were carefully selected, deliberately pierced, colored, and then traded across hundreds of kilometers. This is concrete proof of complex, abstract thought and huge social networks, exactly the kind of social glue you'd need to organize a dangerous, long-distance sea voyage. I love this quote from Pascal Picq. He connects it all perfectly. Making jewelry cosmetics comes from the same root word as cosmogony, which is our understanding of the universe. This symbolic stuff wasn't just decoration. It represented a new way of seeing the world and your place in it. It was the birth of the mindset you need to wonder what's beyond the horizon. So, what does all this mean? When we put all these pieces of the puzzle together, a completely new picture of humanity starts to form. The author just nails it with this line. Our journey to becoming the people we are today, to modernity, it wasn't born on the savannah. It was born on the shoreline. It was forged in the challenge of crossing the sea. So the big takeaway is this. Our deep, deep connection to the sea isn't some recent chapter in our story. It's not just about trade or exploration from a few thousand years ago. It is a foundational part of our identity, woven right into the fabric of what it means to be human. And that leaves us with one last thought to chew on. We are a species defined by this relentless urge to see what's on the other side. For our ancestors, the horizon was a literal line on the water. It really makes you wonder, where is our horizon today? We hope that you liked today's video. Please share your comments and subscribe to explore other similar opportunities. And definitely post your questions in the comments section for future videos.